Yeah, it is 100
It's hot.
degrees today. But so this is Jesse. He is a good friend of Anthony Sokolov. If you guys remember, Anthony is one of the more popular podcasts so far. Um, Basically, Anthony reached out, said this guy is super cool, and one thing that struck me is you were writing a book.
Yes. Yep. I'm
Yeah,
writing a book.
and I heard that
True.
you've never talked to anybody about this book so far.
Never
What
talked about it.
what is the book called?
The book is called The Only Knowable Thing. Okay.
What came
Yeah.
to that?
Yeah. So I am a I am a truth seeker. Okay. So I am out there. I believe in one ultimate truth. I believe there's one worldview that is true. I think someone's right and everyone else is wrong, or they're on their way to that truth.
Oh,
Okay, so in my book, I'm basically comparing and contrasting worldviews, religious ones and non religious ones. So one day I was doing this. I have this DVD set. It's called Learn the Bible in 24 Hours. And because I'm focusing on Christianity right now.
okay.
And there have been times when I focused in on Islam or Buddhism, but right now I'm focusing in on Christianity, just trying to answer the question like, is this ultimate truth? Could this be the truth? Could this be reality? And so I'm focusing in on Christianity, and I'm watching this DVD series called Learn the Bible in 24 Hours, and I decided to tackle it in 24 hours. So I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I need 3 meals in my room. I'm not leaving my room. I started at 6 o'clock. 24 hours later, 6 o'clock on a Sunday, and boom, learned the Bible in 24 hours. And during that series is when I got the inspiration to write this book. Like, you need to actually come out with
Really?
a book and share this. Because the reason I haven't talked to anybody about it is because this is like a personal journey for me.
Okay.
But I'm quickly learning and seeing that other people might benefit from this too, from this journey.
Wow, man. There's so much to unpack. That's amazing.
It's a lot,
Dude.
I know. It's like so much.
So, what did you. Okay, I guess back up. So, like, what's your background in religions before this journey?
Yeah, so I was raised. My parents took me to church every day. My family actually, and a couple of other families got together and started a church, and they played all the roles. So one of my good friends' dad was the pastor, and the other dads were the other people, security, finance, other church leaders. And the we started a church, and there's a group of churches called Calvary Chapel, and if you want to start a church within Calvary Chapel, you can. So we were Calvary Chapel O'Hare, and my parents and my friends' parents were all the roles, and my friends, we all grew up in this church together. In Franklin Park, we renovated this old bowling alley. We turned a bowling alley into a church, and I was raised in that church for 17 years. So we would be like as basic Christians as you get. Like, we read the Bible, and we talk to God every day, and it's nothing crazy, it's nothing extreme, but yeah, we turned that bowling alley into a church, and I grew up with all of them, and that's like, yeah, so I guess raised Christian.
Interesting. And so, you're talking to me on the phone how, as of right now, you see Christianity as the ultimate truth.
As of right now.
As of right now.
Yes.
And so, is that something that you've kind of come to in the past couple years, or is that something that you've kind of held your whole life?
So I have not held it my whole life, and I even now I hold that with an open hand.
Okay.
Okay, so check this out. So even though I was raised in this church, when I got to high school, I had this class. It was just a global studies class, but we talked about other religions, and there was this clip that played of all these different religions, and I saw people on their face crying, and praying to their God, Muslim people, and then the devoutness of Indian people, and I was just like, wait, why is mine right and they're all wrong? You know, like, this seems legit. You know, what they believe is getting an emotional response. It is changing their lives. It is giving them discipline. What's so special about mine? And that's when I really started to kind of detach from it and be like, hey, like, I need to go find some answers to this, and figure this out. So at that point, I started to just ask basic questions. I wasn't really comparing worldviews at that point, but I started asking basic questions about God and about the Bible, and every time I had a question, I found an answer, and I was like, wow, this is really epic. And I just kind of rode that wave for a while, and then now to get to this point, I'm asking that question again. Why do I believe what I believe? Is it just because I was raised on it? Because for me, that's not good enough. I'm looking for truth. Like, I don't want to just believe something because I was raised on it. I don't want to just believe something because it's working for me. It's making my life better. I'm actually looking for, like, truth in the world. So that's where I'm at right now. And that's why I'm writing this book, is to kind of just, like, come up with a set of criteria. Like, ultimate truth has to satisfy these criteria, and then which worldview can actually satisfy that. Can I actually read you my book that I'm writing is partly in here and it's partly in my computer.
Okay.
It's still going. Can I read you just the intro to the book?
Go for it.
That'll like become more clear what I'm doing. Okay, so yeah, the book, this is just the intro page. So, The Only Knowable Thing by Jesse Wenzel. In order to know anything, you would have to know everything. Is that statement true? What is truth? Can one say that there is ultimate truth without knowing everything there is to know, past, present, and future? Can ultimate truth exist in our reality? And if so, can that reality withstand the scrutiny of investigation? Why does it matter? Let's dive in. So that's like the intro to the book, and it's like it's highly philosophical, and it's really focused on the truth. Truth. I'm looking for truth.
And so, what made you go after this? Were you having an existential crisis, and you're like, I need something to prove that there's a point to this whole thing?
Yeah, it's. I'm trying to answer the big questions. You know, who am I? Why am I here? That's really where it all started. Because, thankfully, my parents, they did a really good job raising me. They raised me with a really open mind, and they warned me of the things not to do. And so, a lot of times I was on the outside of people that were lost in romantic relationships, and I was just watching it go down. And I was on the outside of people doing drugs. I was on the outside of people drinking. I was on the outside of all these coping mechanisms, watching it go down, and I just saw, like, that doesn't satisfy. Like, these things don't solve problems. They just buy you time so you can go back to them again. And I want something that actually solves the problem. It answers the question, why am I here? And who am I? And also, like, you know, what am I supposed to do in the meantime? So, yeah, that search for truth. I'm a big people, like, watcher. I love people watching, and I've always just kind of been that outside guy, and so I have these questions, you know. And I think every once in a while some people ignore these questions, but they're there.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think it's almost weird how much we ignore them. I think people go through a lot of their life, and they're just kind of like, as soon as one of those thoughts come in, they turn to a distraction, you know? And it's like, that's something that's always consumed me. It's like why are we actually here? What's the point of it? I don't know. I don't fully get it. I think it's interesting because you're someone who, I'm not quite sure how you came to believing that there's an ultimate truth, but I have found myself as somebody that's like kind of not like the opposite, but like in some kind of like a horseshoe back down, like just I've never the more I grow and the more I get older, the less I'm sure of anything, I feel like, which is making it hard for me to find as much meaning in the world, because meaning often comes from truth or like tradition. And so because of me going through this whole like, I don't know what's real, I'm having a personal struggle of like finding meaning through it all. And so this is a very, very interesting topic for me. How did you come to deciding that there has to be an ultimate truth?
Well, truth is really important. Okay, truth is the lens. Let's talk about worldview for a second. Like,
Okay.
truth is equal to worldview. Okay, so whatever truth you're living in, whatever you believe, is the way you see the world, and you make your actions based on that. Let me tell you how important truth is. This is a tree that I came up with, and it's going to be in the book. So it's like a little trickle down tree. So truth governs morality. I'm going to read it and then I'll go through it.
Okay.
Truth governs morality. Morality governs virtue. Virtue governs culture. Culture governs people. People govern cities. Cities govern countries. Countries govern the world. It all starts with having a set truth. So just going through it, truth governs morality. Morality is like, what is right and wrong? How do we know what right and wrong is? You start with a truth claim. You start with a worldview. Like, for example, the Bible. The Bible is this is a worldview. This is a lens through which I can see the world. This has right and wrong in there. This has how to have a family, how to treat people, how to act, how to respond to things. Any problem, there's answers in here. Despite that it's aged, it's still very relevant today. So this is a truth. This is a possible way you can see the world. This is a worldview, right? And so you could take this, and this will govern morality. And then the next thing is morality governs virtue. So virtue is like why I do things, like my motivation. I am virtuous because I know what right and wrong is, because I have a truth. Okay? Because I have a truth claim. I have a way I see the world. And then virtue governs culture. So if I'm a virtuous man, I get married and I'm going to marry someone who has similar virtues to me, and then we have kids and we teach the kids those virtues. And then the kids get married and have kids. Kids have kids. Kids have kids. And all of a sudden you've got a group of people with all the same virtues. That's called culture. Right? You've got large groups of people and they all are believing the same thing, and it all started with one little truth, right? So now you've got culture, and culture governs people. And the next thing is people govern cities, so it just grows. Cities govern countries, countries govern the world. So it all starts with a truth claim, and that's why it's so important for a stable society, for a stable family. We need to know what right and wrong is. We need to know why we're here, and we need to know what is going on, like, what is our purpose.
What do you think the consequences of not knowing your truth?
I think I can speak personally. Depression, it's just like when you can't answer that question, you can't answer why you're here. For me, I get really, really sad, and I'm just like, what's the point? But that's just me as an individual. For other people, they may have other responses, but that's a society that has no truth at all. The society that we are in now is, I would say, is embracing relativism. So relativism would be the claim that, like, relative would be truth is relative. So your truth is your truth and mine is mine. So we're all kind of just, I have, the Bible worldview, and you have no worldview. You see a lens through kind of something that you're creating, and this person is a Buddhist and their worldview, and we all just peacefully coexist. The problem is, what I define that's right and wrong is different from what you define as right and wrong, and what the Buddhist defines as right and wrong. So, we can say like, I love you at the end of the day, but you step on each other's toes every now and then, and it's like, and then you get that kind of society, the truth is relative society, allows for also radical beliefs too. So you get someone like like the shooting that just happened in Buffalo, that person was 18 years old, and he literally looked up. He was bored during COVID, and he looked up this information, and he read that the rate of brown skin colored people are growing at a higher rate than white people. And he was like, that's not right. I need to go kill as many of these people as possible to even out these numbers. That was literally his logic. And he wrote a 180-page manifesto about how he was going to do it, why he was doing it. He has all the charts. He has all like the graphics, like, you know, people with white skin, they're going down, and we need to get those numbers even. And this is a person who was lost. They didn't have a worldview. They came across something, and they just embraced it. And so and then, you know, he went out and literally, he picked a zip code that had the most ratio of African American people to white people. That's why he picked that zip code. That's why he did that Buffalo shooting. This is just a lost person. I know it's an extreme case, but the whole truth is relative culture allows for anything and everything. And it's beautiful on the outside, like, you know, it seems like it's all love and stuff, but in reality, we can step on each other's toes, and we really kind of lose sight of what's right and wrong. You know, we have set laws, like what he did was bad. We can all agree that what he did was bad, but if we lived in a culture that presented him a truth claim off the bat, maybe he would have at least had something to compare that up against. You know what I mean? So,
do you know what? How would you give, for the person who's lost, what would you do to kind of like introduce them into like a truth claim? Would it just be reading your book in the future? Is that what you're kind of hoping for? Or is there, like, this guy's going to be lost either way. Like, how do you even save him or find him?
Yeah, my book is for someone. One of my, someone I really look up to, a great speaker, Erwin McManus, he says, if you write a book for everyone, you've written a book for no one. Okay, and what he's getting at is that if you just write this general thing, you know, you're intending to reach everyone, you don't want to step on any toes, it's not really going to reach anyone. No one's going to look at that and be like, yeah, I relate to that, because it's just too generic, it's too general. So my book is for someone, and it is for the truth seeker. Okay, this is for people who don't know what to believe yet. I want to give you a place to start. Okay? This is for people who are searching and they're trying out different things. Now, okay, check out my book and just check out who Jesus is. Right? Just check it out. Because the person who Jesus is worth investigating for anybody. For anybody.
I would agree. I think it's either like, oh, I believe in it, or I don't, and there's not a lot of personal investigation into it, and I would say for most people. And I don't think I've personally taken on that endeavor well enough, because no matter what, Jesus is a completely historical, influential thing, maybe more than any other person who's ever existed on this planet. So,
yeah,
I would agree.
He's a big deal, absolutely.
He's a big deal.
Can I talk about one other thing though? Like, one of the other reasons I wrote this book?
Yeah.
This is like some of my logic for why I think that Christianity is not only the ultimate truth, but that's why my book is called The Only Knowable Thing, because I believe that it is the only knowledge that you can have that you can be sure that you know it. Okay? We were talking about consciousness briefly the other day. How do I even know that you are perceiving the world as I perceive it? You know, is this bin lid green? Maybe it is to the two of us, but maybe not to others. And then there's colorblind people. Are the colorblind people seeing it as it is? Or are we seeing it as it is? Like, knowledge is like, it's like relative to consciousness. It's like, how do I even know we're perceiving the same world right now? So, but check this out. So here's what I wrote down. This will probably make it in the book. Finding truth and knowing anything for certain is not looking good for humans. We don't live that long, and there are new discoveries and things being discredited every century. The only way we can know something for certain, truth, is to get it from the source of truth. So check this out. Like, you and me are here for 70 years is the average age of an American person, American male. And we can only learn so much. And we can learn stuff, but next century what we learned could be proved wrong. You know? Or a new thing will come. But truth is true past, present, and future. It's always true. Okay? That's one of the characteristics of truth. And that's why I think we can latch onto it. But check this out. So earlier I said the only way you can be sure that you know something is if you know everything. So like, let's say I'm seeing the world through the worldview of the Bible, and I'm saying this is truth. It's really tough to say that this is true. I would have to know every other religion that ever existed and know that it's false to be able to objectively say that this is true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know this is like super philosophical, but I would need the knowledge of all the ages, past, present, and future, to be able to say that this is true. So what am I even doing here? How am I writing this book? Well, check this out. Imagine for a second, forget about like everything. Imagine there is a God who has always existed. He doesn't have an end point. He doesn't have a beginning point. And he knows everything. So we have this God. He's always existed. He knows everything. And then this God is also accessible to you and me. Like we can be cool with him. We can talk to him. We can relate to him. We can have a relationship with him. And he will share that knowledge with us. In a world where a God like that exists, it is possible to have truth and to actually know something, because that knowledge is verified by this God who has always existed and knows everything. And only so which worldview has a God like that? Only Christianity. Every other God has an origin point, or he's not that powerful. Christianity satisfies that criteria, and that God does exist, and he is real, and he has no beginning and no end, and he knows everything. So if we're getting knowledge from him, if we can have a relationship with him, we're getting knowledge from him, we can be sure that that is truth. Absolutely sure. I'm not immortal. I'm not going to live forever, and I'm not going to know everything, but I'm connected to this source, right? So check this out. So Jesus is walking around on the earth. One of his famous things he's famous for saying is, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me." So God is not just a monolithic God. He's not just like a statue or something like that. He's a socially complex God. We can relate to him. But how? Through Jesus. And Jesus is God. There's three parts to God: Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It's kind of like how water has three states. You know, we got like the gas, we got steam, water, and ice. Or an egg has three parts, but it's one egg. Mm-hmm. That's how God is. So God is up here, and we access him through Jesus. And then we get access to knowledge. We get access to truth. And that is why I'm so confident, and I'm chilling, and I'm like, I'm sure of this. Like, this is really cool. No other religion has a God that's powerful enough to give me certain knowledge, give me certain truth that I'm sure of. I know are you following this? I know this is like...
I'm following. How do you know that this God can give you those things? Like, how can you prove that to yourself?
Yeah, okay, so just jumping into some Bible verses. The Bible says that this word is God. This is like a living and active book. There's like a cliche within the Christian community. They say the Bible's the only book that reads you. Because check this out. When you become a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit lives inside of you, okay? And the Holy Spirit is called the Helper. And as you're reading, stuff gets pointed out to you. Like, I'll be reading, I could read the same piece of, like the same chapter of it, and I get something new out of it. Like, that's what I said, that's what I meant when I said God is a socially complex God, and he relates to us, and we relate to him. So as I'm reading this book, I'm in communication with God, just verbally talking to him, praying to him, but then I also have his Spirit in me also like I'm reading and things are jumping out to me, and it's just like it is a relationship. Like me and God are in this together. You know, it's such a special connection, and it's so amazing. And there's a verse it says, there's a verse that says in the Bible, if anyone wants wisdom, ask, and I'll freely give it to you without sparing. So it's so funny. A lot of people like they just stop short. Like, have you tried to like talk to God? Have you tried to ask for wisdom? Like, God, if you're real, show it to me. That kind of thing. Because he says in the Bible, he freely gives us wisdom. And so, but here's the thing though, like, some people will get mad, like philosophers, or sorry, not philosophers, but maybe philosophers, maybe psychologists, they'll get mad at me because I'm using the Bible to prove the Bible, like the circular reasoning thing, right?
Okay.
So how can we give this book some validity? Mm-hmm. And I have some pretty cool info to share on that, if that's okay.
I'd love to hear. This is one of my concerns.
So yeah, the Bible, it's a book of 66 books. Okay. It was written over the course of the past 2,000 years. Over the course of that time, across 3 continents, Europe, Africa, and Asia, and 3 languages, Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic. And it was written by over 40 authors, many of whom did not even know each other. Okay, so it's a super complex book. It's been put together through all this time, and that is just some info about it. And now here we have it in English. It's pretty cool to live in this moment in history having the completed Bible, because so many people just didn't have it. So to answer the question why I choose to believe the Bible, I'm just gonna totally steal the answer from one of my favorite speakers. Is that okay?
Okay.
Is that cool with you? So Dr. Vodi Balcom answered this question, and this is a great YouTube video too. And this is, where is this? Yeah, this is Dr. Vodi Balcom's answer to why I choose to believe the Bible, and this is also my answer too, because he crushed it and I'm stealing it. I choose to believe the Bible because it is a reliable collection of historical documents written by eyewitnesses during the lifetime of other eyewitnesses. They report supernatural events that took place in fulfillment of specific prophecies and claim that their writings are divine rather than human in origin. So that's my answer. And now, just breaking it down, I choose to believe the Bible because it's a reliable collection of historical documents. In this book, there's maps, there's locations, there's towns, there's people that are mentioned by name. Like there's kings, there's battles, verified by other sources of history. So this book has the historical legitimacy. Like we can prove that these locations exist. We can prove that these people were really in those places. And that's a good start, right? Written by eyewitnesses during the lifetime of other eyewitnesses. Yeah, this is just more of like, these are people reporting what they saw. It's not just like stories. It's verifiable. Like, okay, we have locations on the map, we have the language. The Old Testament, so half of this book was written in Hebrew. And Hebrew is a special language because they have letters, but each letter has a number in Hebrew. So it's really hard to mess it up when you're translating. Hebrew means what it means, like, period. Like, it is what it is. And you see a Hebrew character, and it has to be that. It couldn't be anything else. Like, English can get misconstrued really easily. But Hebrew is a special language in that way. And the New Testament was written in Greek, and it also have that number system.
What do you mean by this number system?
So, like, this isn't accurate, but, for example, A is 1. Like, if English was a language like this, it would be A is a 1, 2 is B, and then C is 3. Each letter has a number as well. In Hebrew, there's a third aspect too. Each letter is a meaning in itself. Okay, so the letter A would mean 1. It would mean the letter A, and it would mean house for us. Just an example, because it looks like a house. So that is how deep and complex Hebrew is. And the whole Old Testament is written in Hebrew, and so really hard to mess that up. And every time the Bible is translated into a new translation, even if it's English, they always translate from the Hebrew. Even the New Testament was translated from Hebrew and Aramaic into Greek. So even when they were translating, a lot of people are stressed like, oh, it's so old, didn't it get lost in translation? No, it was always copied this way, and the Hebrew language is like impregnable. Like, it can stand the test of time. And if you look at it like, let's say I'm God and I'm putting together this book for humans on earth, that would be the language I would pick. And that would be the time that I would write it as well. Because it just withstands the test of time.
Who wrote Genesis?
Genesis would be Moses. Okay.
And when did Moses live?
I don't know. We can Google it. We can look it up.
Okay. But, so, something that I always question is, there had to be a significant period of time in which it was carried orally, right? Because, like, how does Moses, how can you even verify Moses is speaking any truth when he's talking about the beginning of time itself?
Great question. And I'm going to look at a verse to answer that. I can't find where I wrote it. Oh well. But the writers of this book claim that they were not writing on their own accord. God was giving them the words to say, and he wrote them down. That's how John wrote Revelation, the apocalypse, which is literally the end of the world. It hasn't even happened yet. God told him what to write. He's like, these events are going to happen. Just as God informed Moses, these events have happened.
What's he say about the apocalypse?
Dude, it's so deep. Like, it's
Dude,
crazy.
Tell me about the apocalypse.
The Bible, in Revelation, it is predicted a one world currency, one world government. It's like super deep. It predicts that also when the apocalypse is getting close to, you've heard of like the Antichrist that's going to come, and like the mark of the beast. Like, have you ever heard that? Like 666 is like the mark of the beast. Okay. Basically, there's going to be this guy that comes. He's the Antichrist, and there's going to be one world government, and this guy's in charge. And he has this thing called the mark of the beast. It's 666, and you can't buy or sell anything, any commodities, any food, without getting this mark of the beast, without getting 666, either on your forehead or on your wrist. Now, this like is, many people translate this, they interpret it in many different ways. Like, basically what you need to know is that the world is headed towards a one world government, a one world currency, and you want to look out for this guy that's going to tie everything together, and everyone's going to love him, but he is going to be against God and against the Bible. And he's going to say, okay, you can't buy or sell unless you get this mark, and it's somehow going to be associated with 666. That's like a bad number. But then, here's the interesting part, though, is that you can't buy or sell without getting the mark on your wrist or on your forehead. But I looked at the Greek word. Greeks, their word for wrist includes this entire area. So when they say Jesus was hanging on the cross, it probably wasn't nailed through his hand. It was probably nailed through, like, here. And then you've got forehead. Their word for forehead is actually, it translates to the space between the eyes. Oh. So check this out. So, watch, you can't buy or sell without a watch. Or maybe like Apple glasses. Maybe there's going to be like a tech glasses, and you can't buy or sell without getting these special glasses. So, God is informing John of what to write. And this is like a dude living in the Middle East like so long ago. He's just writing it down the best that he can. It talks about a big war that's going to happen, and John writes about arrows that don't miss. What would that translate to in today? Rockets, right? Laser guided missiles, arrows that don't miss. But John doesn't know what a missile is, but he's just like, oh, an arrow that doesn't miss. So studying Revelation is super interesting because you break it down and you're like, are these current events? Like, we look at what's happening in the world, like, are we heading in that direction? Like, is the apocalypse happening soon? So to answer your OG question, God told Moses what to write, and that's how we have an account of the beginning of the world, just as God told John what to write. It says in the Bible that this entire book, God wrote it through men. God wrote it through people. That is why it is perfect and trustworthy.
Why didn't God just write it himself?
I mean, he did write it himself.
Well, kind of.
Right?
Kind of just puppeteered some people.
Yeah, I think he did write it himself. And I think, I mean, we can break it down. Why didn't he just zap it down here? One of the reasons is probably because we would worship it instead of him, maybe.
Huh.
So that happened at one point in the Bible. A lot of people were sick and God healed them through Moses' staff. Moses built a staff and God healed the people through the staff. And later on, that staff is in a temple and people are worshiping it instead of God. And I'm sure God's like, what the heck? Like, I don't want you worshiping the thing. I want you worshiping actually me. Like, why would you, do we give credit to the axe for cutting down a tree, or do we give credit to the lumberjack, right? So that's just a theory that is not in the Bible at all. But like, if God is, creating all these sacred artifacts and items here on earth, it's just another gateway for people to like put all their hope and trust in that instead of God. So that maybe is just one reason. Like, this is just a book. Like, you really need to want God in order to jump into this book. You can't. This book isn't anything special. Like we could buy a new one and this or that. It's really the words in the book. It's the God who wrote it through men. But here's like, this is like one of the really cool things about the Bible. The Bible has prophecy. Okay, this is a way that I can prove to you that God wrote this book through men. So check this out. So in the Old Testament, there's over 300 things that the Old Testament says, and then they come true in the New Testament. Okay, so check this out. And this is just a really great way to prove the validity of the Bible. Instead of just saying like, oh look, like, this guy named Peter said he saw a guy named John, and the guy named John, look, they're naming locations. Like, eyewitness stuff only goes so far because this was written so long ago. It's like, can we really stand on that? But what I'm about to show you is like amazing. So let's pull this up here. So, okay. There's over 300 prophecies. You watch like a TV show or a movie and they're like, oh, the prophecy of let's say there's a prophecy and this guy with a blue shirt and like afro hair is supposed to be in this basement today. Someone predicted that. It's coming true today. That prophecy was fulfilled. And you watch in movies like, there's like drawings on the wall and it's like, this person is going to come save us one day. And then the main character is that person. So in the Old Testament, there are over 300 statements and prophecies about Jesus. This is 3 centuries before he was born. And this is verifiable. This is absolutely verifiable. In 270 BC before Christ, the Old Testament was translated into Greek. And then this is 270 BC. This is definitely before Jesus was born. And you have predictions about where he's going to be born, the family he's going to be born from, where he's going to be born, the city, all the way even until it predicts that he's going to die on a cross. And crucifixion wasn't even invented until by the Persians till years later. So you have actual you have time traveling statements in this book. Like, it could only have been written by a God who is outside of time because he knew the end before the beginning. Okay? He told guys to write things, and then later those things came true. And we're living it right now. Revelation hasn't happened yet, but it's going to. And we're living that. We're watching it happen. But it's really cool to look at these 300 prophecies. A really good video for you. Dr. Chuck Missler. Okay? This guy is a genius. He is a Christian, and he has a logical science brain. Okay? And he picks out 48 of these prophecies. 48 of the 300 prophecies. And he goes through his little YouTube video, and he's like, okay, what are the odds that a male is born in Bethlehem at this time? Odds are, this was the population of the earth at the time. The odds are 1 in this many million. And that's 1. And he does that for 48 prophecies. What are the odds? It predicts that Jesus is going to ride into town on a donkey. And he does. What are the odds someone's going to ride into town on a donkey claiming to be a king? And he does like 1 out of 100. So he does 48 prophecies, and the chances are 1 to 10 to the 157th power.
It's a lot of zeros.
It is so many zeros. It is incomprehensible how many zeros it is. For eight prophecies, only 8, and this is all in the video. For 8 prophecies to come true, and he picks really basic ones too, and he leans the numbers to the least likely side. For 8 prophecies, you would have to take a silver dollar and fill the state of Texas with silver dollars 2 feet. And then you take one silver dollar and you mark it and you put it, distribute it somewhere where there's an even chance you could pick it up. And I'm going to plop you in a random place, and if you pick up that one marked one, the prophecy, like, the chances are that didn't happen. But if you pick up the unmarked one, the chances are it did happen. So
Ooh.
Literally the odds are, and that's just 8 of them, 48 is 10 to the 157th power. The video is 8 minutes. Like, can we watch it? Like, should we watch it? Like,
We can.
Put it up on the screen? So yeah, I might be annoying and like pause it. And pause it and say something.
No, you're good, man.
Well, now I have these 8 prophecies. Born in Bethlehem, king of donkey, etc., etc. These 8 prophecies.
Okay, so, like, yeah, here are the prophecies, and, like I was saying, what are the chances a male is born in Bethlehem? Well, the number of people that live there, say 100,000, so we'll say 1 out of 100,000. What are the odds he rides into town claiming to be a king? Let's say 1 out of 100 people do that within 100 years, which is generous, right? What are the odds Jesus is going to be sold by a friend for 30 pieces of silver? How many people were sold by a friend for 30 pieces of silver? Maybe 1 out of 1,000. So he's being really generous with these. He's going to be wounded in his hands. He's going to be an innocent man who gets killed. All this stuff. Crucified. So, and this is just 8 prophecies. So let's jump in.
Since I've used powers of 10, it's easy to multiply them because all I have to do is count the zeros. 10 to the 66 times 10 to the 66, that's 10 to the 132nd. I'm still a long way from my goal. So I'm going to repeat this mental exercise once every second since the universe began. From hour 13 over in the Bible, in 24 hours for those of you.
Cool. So, yeah, like, wild, right? So we can prove, or definitely, let's say, just the odds are overwhelmingly in the favor that this guy named Jesus really did exist, and he really did die on a cross, and he really did get born in Bethlehem, and the odds are overwhelmingly in the favor that he did exist. Not just eyewitness, but also these statements that were made about him before they even happened, which is so crazy. That is how you know that this book was inspired by God, because one of God's attributes is that he is outside of time. We experience time, forward and back, just forward, but God is outside of that.
How do we know that they wrote this before Jesus was born?
This is verifiable. This is secular science, and when I say secular, I just mean non-religious. The Old Testament was translated into Greek in 270 BC. It's called the Septuagint, in BC, of course, before Christ. So it is documented, and we have those documents that they were written, and the original date they were written wouldn't even matter. It is officially documented that they were translated into Greek at 270 BC, before the life of Christ, still 2 centuries before. So that is bringing this book, starting to bring this book some logical validity. I'm not just a guy telling you, like, just have faith, just believe it worked for me. Like, this is history. And also there's a supernatural element to this too. How are there statements here that connect, that didn't happen yet, that then happened later, that are recorded happening later? Like, how? So why, like, I need to talk about Jesus for a second. Like, what's so special about Jesus? Jesus, we know he's a real guy. He actually claimed to be God. Okay? He claimed to be the part of the God, the 3-in-1 thing. Mm-hmm. So he says, God is my Father. And then in John, he says, the Father and I are one. Okay? So we have this guy walking around on earth saying, I'm God. and I'm the God of the Bible. That's a really bold claim. You know, that's why we killed him. We crucified him on a cross. The religious people of the day crucified him on the cross, and crucifixion was the most painful way to die because he was claiming to be God. That's why we killed him. So who is this guy? Like, you walk around and you claim to be God. You're either crazy, or what if he's right? If Jesus really was God, if he really was part of that 3-in-1 thing, then that guy that we killed is the creator of everything. Right? He created it all. You, me, he created the universe. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth, the universe. And universe just means a single spoken verse. Right? Universe. And God did create it all in one verse. That is why Jesus is worth investigating. Because he claimed to be God. You can't pass that up. You can't pass it up. You can't ignore it. He's either crazy or he's God. And you mentioned that earlier. Like, it's not one or the other. He is crazy or he's God. Because someone is going around, you see someone on the street saying, like, I'm God. You're probably like, dude, what? But Jesus was going around healing people. There's prophecies that came true about Jesus. His life was documented. Over 300 details about his life was documented. And then they actually came true. So there's a really good book. It's called Person of Interest. And a homicide detective investigates Jesus as though to prove his existence and prove his validity. Super good book. It's called Person of Interest. He uses all of his crime statistics because we don't have the body of Jesus. When he died on the crucifixion cross, we buried him, and then you might know this story. 3 days later, he was gone. The tomb was empty. And then people started seeing him, and he said, "Yeah, I rose from the dead, just like I said I would." So. And this homicide detective investigates Jesus as though he was a missing body case. And he investigated, did Jesus's 12 disciples take his body? And now we just think he rose from the dead, but they really just took his body, did something else happen, grave robbers, whatever, and he investigates that, and he actually found that it's true. And he became a Christian during the process of writing the book. He started writing it as an atheist, finished it as a Christian because of the overwhelming evidence that is there. If you just look into it, it's worth it. So if you're a seeker, if you're seeking truth and you're wondering should I check out Islam? Should I check out Buddhism? Should I check out should I do no religion at all? Should I just be live as an atheist, just do my own thing for a while? Should I look to nature and the stars and crystals for wisdom and do some Wicca stuff? I recommend start with Jesus, because you just might find that you don't stop. Because the thing about truth is always true, past, present, and future. So, and a lot of these religions and worldviews, they have an origin point. All paganism, which is like Wicca and worship of the sun, worship of nature, Mother Nature, all that stuff, has an origin point of Babylon, this one city, where people were rebelling against God, and they're like, let's start doing our own thing. That's the origin of crystals, the zodiac signs, all that stuff. And then you've got Buddhism, obviously started with the Buddha. Islam started with Muhammad, which they claim, God inspired Muhammad, but it started with Muhammad. What did people do before these points? That worldview can't be true because it has an origin point. Truth is true all the time, full time. Truth can't be something we haven't discovered yet. It's down the line, you and me can't access it. No, it has to be true all the time. And I have one thing to say too about this is interesting. So BC means before Christ, and then AD, that's where we are right now, 2022 AD. Mm-hmm. I used to think it means after death, but it means Anno Domini, Latin. It means the year of our Lord. Because he is alive, he did not die. He came back alive. So I think that's just an interesting.
So what funny year? So the first year one is the year he was born.
Your BC, AD would be. First year AD would be when Jesus was born.
When Jesus was born. So I was always confused because I always thought it was the after death thing also, and that he was not.
It's like a funny detail.
And then I realized that he didn't die in year 0, so I was really confused as to why that would be.
Yeah, it's like,
the
but
case.
again, that's, that doesn't like necessarily prove anything. That just means the guy who made the date system was a Christian and believes that Jesus is still alive. So, like, I'm not interested in telling you, like, just believe. I'm interested in giving you, like, the facts and the logic, right? So that's what my book is. I'm pushing the boundaries, trying to use as much facts and logic and science as possible. And the Bible is a really, really interesting book. There is mention to atoms in the Bible, okay? Before atoms were discovered, and before atoms were even a thing, there's a really, really interesting verse. It's Hebrews 11:13. Oh, sorry, 11:3. I'm like, that's not right. 11:3. By faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen are made of things which are not visible. So that the things which sorry, I'm so sorry. By faith we understand that the words were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. It's saying that everything is made up of invisible things. Reference to atoms. Before atoms are even like discovered or announced, this book is aware of that, because of course it is, because God told those men to write this, and he made the whole scenario. As a Christian, you don't need to shy away from science. You don't need to shy away from philosophy, and you don't need to shy away from even like thermodynamics or gravity. There's a reference to gravity in Job 38:11. It says God told the waters where they could stop. He said, stop here and go no further. What dictates tide? Gravity. Okay? God knew of it. Of course he did. He created it. And he told the waters where to stop because he can manipulate gravity, because he made it. He's the creator. He has creator's rights. In the Bible also is referenced the cycle of water, right? The water going up to the clouds, that is referenced. There's knowledge in this book that predates us discovering it and giving it a name. It's really interesting. It's like, what?
Those things aren't that specific, though. Right? Like,
okay.
I feel like if I really thought about it, I could probably be like, yeah, there's probably something that makes up us that's, like, pretty small, you know? Like, couldn't I just think about that?
No, I love that. I love that you bring that up. It's not good enough. You want more.
Yeah.
Okay. Job 38:31. God says, I bound the Orion and the Pleiades. Okay. The Orion and the Pleiades are the only two star clusters which are held together by gravity. Every other star cluster are just a bunch of stars in relative distance to each other. How did God know? Why did he use the word bound? Binds them together. Because he knew they're bound together. They're held together by a force that he created, and he bound them. And the Bible says God numbered the stars, and he placed them in the sky, and he gave them their names. So he says, I bound them. He used that word. We haven't discovered gravity, and we haven't discovered that these constellations are held together by gravity. But boom, here's a reference to that. So there's a more specific one for you. And this is little stuff, but for me especially, it makes me excited. It gives validity to this, and it's just a little clue as to, like, this book is not just written by man. God is telling them what to write, because no man could have known this. There's no man at the beginning of the earth. There's no man at the end of the earth, the end of days. And we already have the book physically right here. So these are just like little clues that like solidify it. It makes it real.
It does.
I want to share one thing too. I want to talk about the whole relative thing for a second. So, like, a lot of people believe, okay, a lot of people say truth is relative. You have your truth, I have mine.
Okay.
You know, I could just go home and keep on believing this, keep doing my studies, and that'd be fine. there is evidence here that is worth investigating. Even just the guy claiming to be God, the God of the Bible, that is worth investigating. So you could believe in the Bible, or you could believe that there's nothing. There is something. You and me are here. Like, there's a world around us. I don't think I'll ever be a person who believes that there's nothing. For me, there's too much evidence. There's something. Like, some people believe, like, it's like, forget what the word is, but they're just like, yeah, when we die, that's it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more than this life. Mm-hmm. But for me, even just what we went through today, I think there's more evidence that claims that there's at least something out there to believe in. A lot of people say truth is relative. Your truth is your truth, my truth is mine. But check this out. That statement, truth is relative, does that statement include itself? Okay, so I could say truth is relative, but then that statement would be relative too, and that it means that statement is not always true. Okay. But then the statement truth is relative, if that statement does not include itself, so we're saying, yeah, truth is relative except for the statement truth is relative. If the statement doesn't include itself, it's imposing and it's saying that there's no absolutes, but it's trying to say that absolutely. It's saying there's no absolutes by imposing an absolute. So basically saying that, like, even the statement truth is relative, like, it doesn't even stand on its own. It doesn't even stand itself. There is one truth. Because yeah, truth cannot be relative. Even the statement itself can't hold up against itself. Does that make sense? Like you put that statement against any scrutiny and it's like it doesn't hold up.
Talk to me about the afterlife.
Afterlife. So we are a soul and a body. Okay. Our body dies, soul lives on. Soul's eternal. Soul lives on forever.
Where do these souls go?
The souls go to one of two places. Goes to heaven, goes to hell. And heaven is a place where you are with God. And hell is just a place where you are not with God. You're apart from him. And right now, here on earth, this is our time. We have free will. We can choose. We can choose God or not God. God actually didn't create hell for people. People choose to go there themselves by denying God. And the Bible says that God is patient and he's long-suffering and he is not willing that any should perish. So check this out. God is going to do everything possible he can to make sure that you get to heaven with him forever. But he's not going to force you. You know why he's not going to force you? It's because that would be incorrect for him to do. God is good, God is just, and God is perfect. So he's fair because of that. So in a fair scenario, he plops you down and gives you a choice. And he wants you to choose him, but he's not going to make you choose him. Because that wouldn't be fair. Mm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That is why so many people get mad at God. Like, why does God allow bad things to happen? Well, it's not that he allows it. He's fair. And so he put us on earth and gave us a choice to be fair. Choice to choose good or evil. So really, people choose to do bad things. And that upsets God just as much as it upsets you. But he doesn't allow bad things to happen. That person is going to get theirs. God is jury, judge, and executioner. At the end of the day, no one gets away with anything. In the Bible, it says that God will bring into judgment every deed, whether publicly or privately, good or bad. Everything you've done. It's like you sit down, it's just you and God, and you're in this judgment seat. And it's like, okay, let's take a look at your life. What have you done? By the way, though, you don't get into heaven by doing good or bad things. The criteria that God looks for, he's looking for, do you know me? Okay? Like you're trying to get into some place like with a bouncer and he's like, oh, you're good. Mm. Or like, yo, you're not good. It's that kind of thing. The Bible talks about people that'll get to heaven and say like, I did all these good things. But God says, I never knew you. So that's what's so special about Christianity. It's the only religion that's not works-based. You can't work your way into heaven. You can't. It's all about when you have that relationship with God, when you get close with him, when you talk to him every day, your actions change. Your speech changes. Your works are a result of your belief and your relationship with God. I don't do works and do good things, charitable things, whatever. Be a good person, and then I get tight with God. No, it's the opposite way. That relationship with him transforms you. Okay, that's like the way the system works. But anyways, yeah, God, you die, and your soul is up there, and it's like, okay, where are you going to spend eternity from here? The rest of your eternal life of your soul. And God is just and fair and good. And so with each person, he's completely fair with it. Do I know you? I gave you every chance possible with your free will that you would allow me to give you.
And so where this runs into a little bit of a problem for me is, like, what about people who've never even heard of God existing before? There's countless people on this earth that's the case.
So, let's go with, like, the Native Americans. Would that be a good example? Before we came here and colonized America, we brought our religion here. We brought church buildings, baptizing, Bibles. Native Americans didn't have that. Mm-hmm. Could they have been saved and gone to heaven? What was up with them? What about people on an island that we have never even come into contact with? There's still people living like on islands. Like,
yeah.
What happens when they die? Well, we know that God is good and fair and just. What happens when a baby gets aborted? We can disagree or agree on when the baby officially has a soul or when it has life. But places like Colorado will abort a baby all the way up until the 3rd trimester. Do we agree a baby has a soul at that point? What happens to that baby? And is that baby any different from the person on the island? Or the Native Americans? We'll just call it like innocence maybe, right? What happens to that? There's a story in the Bible that gives me a lot of hope. Being pro-life. David, there's a guy named David, and he has a baby with this girl, and the baby dies. And after a couple of days, he's like really upset about it, and then he's not upset anymore. And his servant is like, "Yo, David, you're good? Like, what's up?" And he's like, "Yeah, because the baby has gone up, and one day I will be with the baby." And so from that right there, that made it into the Bible. And we know that the Bible was written not by man. It was written inspired by God. God added that in there. And so from there we can infer that baby, that innocent baby, is going to go to the same place David went. And David, God loved David. God said about David, "This is a man after my own heart." David's the guy that God was the apple of his eye. The apple of my eye, that's originally from Psalms in the Bible. David wrote that about God. So we know for sure David's going to heaven. And David said, "I'm going to see that baby again one day." And guess what? That baby also was born. He had it with a girl who wasn't his wife. So if you're thinking like, oh, maybe, what about babies that are created like in an illegitimate scenario or whatever? That baby created out of wedlock. David said, "I'm going to see it again one day." And so we can assume that the baby went to heaven, and we can assume also that we know David went to heaven too. And how is that baby different from the Native Americans or the Islanders? Exact same knowledge of God, right? Zero knowledge. No time to do good works or bad works. But works don't get you into heaven or not, right? So at that point, I would fall back on God's justice and his goodness. Because God is a good, just God, he would not default send anyone to hell. He didn't create it for that. He created hell for Satan, and when Satan rebelled in heaven and took 1/3 of the angels with him, he created hell for them. But there's people on earth who literally just are mad at God. They run away from him. They deny him. They spend their life putting him down. And when it comes time for them to be judged, God is just like, "You spent your whole life like against me. Like, I don't know you. You don't want me. You don't even want me." And I have to do this because I'm a just God. You commit a crime, this is the punishment. Right? So the Bible also says that God has determined every people, every culture, and where they should be and how long they're going to be there. So that verse tells me, that's in Acts. That verse tells me that God was aware of the Native Americans, and he put them there, and he knew how long they were going to be there before they got kicked out. And same with every people. So he's aware. And then that verse I mentioned earlier in 2 Peter, God is long-suffering, and he's not willing that any should perish. He wants everyone to go to heaven. But it's on us with our free will. And as far as the innocents go, I'm sure they go to heaven.
Why can't God intervene and make himself clear to innocents? To maybe not specifically a baby, but
to everyone?
To a person who has no contact. Because the path of Christianity completely follows the path of, like, Christian expansion, basically. Like, it follows everywhere that Middle Eastern / Europeans went, that's where Christianity followed. So why...
Yep.
I would say you reach out to someone who's not?
I would revise what you just said, and I agree with most of it, but I would revise it to say everywhere the Europeans went, religion followed. Not necessarily God, knowledge of God, relationship with God. They brought a lot of practices and traditions. You know, we brought baptisms, we brought Bibles, we brought churches, but you don't need that to go to heaven. When Jesus was up on the cross, there were 2 other people, criminals, getting killed with him. You know, Jesus is getting killed because he's claiming to be God, and everyone's like, kill him, he's claiming to be God, that's blasphemy. And there's 2 people next to him. One of the guys looked at him and he was like, if you're God, just you know, call your angels down and save us all, save yourself. And Jesus looked over at the other guy, and the other guy said, I believe. And Jesus said, today you'll be with me in paradise. So here we have this person who makes it into heaven, like, by the littlest hair. And he is condemned for death, dying on a cross, because who knows what he did in his life, but he did something to get the death sentence. And he made it into heaven last minute. No church building, nothing. Zero tradition at all. You do not need tradition to go to heaven or to know God. You do not. I gotta read this verse, man. This verse is so good.
Gotta read it.
Romans. So yeah, like, I'm reading from Romans. Romans is a letter that Paul wrote to the Romans.
Okay.
Okay. And he's talking to them. And he says,
our man Paul here.
Yep, this is the famous Paul.
What time frame is Paul from?
I don't know, but that's definitely a Googleable thing.
New Testament.
Okay, here we go. I'll explain the first part later, but just jumping in. The wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because what can be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. Since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes have been clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. His eternal power, the Godhead, it all can be clearly seen through what God made, through his creation, so that they're without excuse. So basically, and look what he says, anything that you need to know about me is right here. It's right in front of you. It's in creation. And then he says, we suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Basically, like, it's implying that we already know of God. We want him. It's like we want to go back home. Like, but God, he doesn't create us to want him. And I'll talk about that in a second, because man is basically bad. Man is basically evil. Okay? So basically, we have man who's basically bad, and we're suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. So wherever you live, whether you're the Native American or you're the person on the island, you have that knowledge. You have that truth in you. Just like this guy did on the cross, who saw his chance and he was like, I believe. And boom, God let him in. God let him up. You don't need tradition. You don't need candles, a building, a pastor. None of that. You could I'm guessing honestly people had dreams. God revealed himself to them in dreams. God revealed himself to them with, maybe he did just pop down. Who knows? God's going to do his thing and give everyone a fair shot and a fair chance. Everyone, even you. Like even now, this is probably your chance. And anyone listening, this is your chance to know God and investigate him. Because what if you shrug this off all the way till the end of your life, and then God says, yeah, this was, I clearly revealed myself to you through Jesse. I'm not going to make you believe because I'm fair, but you just took that and rejected it. And this time I tried and you rejected it. And this time I tried and you said no. And this time you said no. Like, you don't want me, So like some pastors, like for a long time, they preach with like hellfire preaching, which is like, believe in God or you're going to go to hell. And they use fear to scare people into like investigating Jesus. And I don't mean to necessarily be doing that. I'm just communicating like the reality of it, like the big picture. Like this could be your chance to give God a chance and investigate him because he wants to know you. But it's like, have you seen Aladdin? Mm-hmm. Like the genie, there's like the genie can't make you fall in love. He's like, you can't wish for more wishes and I can't make you fall in love. There's like rules that he has to follow. There's rules that God has to follow too because of his nature, because he's fair. God can't make you fall in love with him. He didn't make you to be a robot who falls in love with him because that just would not be fair.
Oh. That's kind of interesting with the Aladdin analogy because those are like, it's kind of the same thing.
There's a really good movie called Bruce Almighty where Jim Carrey gets the powers of God and he has stipulations. He can't make a girl fall in love with him. And it's so funny because he's going up to this girl and he's like, he has the powers of God. And he's like, love me. And Morgan Freeman plays God. And he goes to Morgan Freeman. He's like, I can't make her fall in love. He's like, yeah, because of just fairness, and my love for people. I'm not going to create robots. I'm giving you a choice. I'm giving you a choice to choose the goodest good or the worst evil. And a lot of people, they don't choose either. They just chill in the middle. But I need to tell you, like, can I just tell you, like, the reality of everything? Can I tell you the story of humans and Earth from the start till now? Like, the actual full picture?
Yeah. Can you touch on one thing about heaven first?
Good.
What is the idea of heaven? Like, what does that place look like?
Yeah, so it's described. There's gates made of pearl and the streets of gold. So yeah, visually beautiful. The best part about heaven is we're out of our bodies. Our bodies have these five senses that just want to be satisfied to the death, right? Some people eat until they die just because they want to eat. We're out of our bodies, which means we're away from our desires. We're away from bad emotions. We're away from stress. We're away from fear, and it's just us up there with God and the other believers. God says he's preparing a mansion for us with many rooms. Like, there's all these awesome, like, claims, like, but the best part is finally making it back to being with God and having no stress, no tears, nothing, because we're out of these bodies, which are just falling apart and they're just a mess. So yeah, heaven is this perfect place, absolute euphoria. We have new bodies in heaven. It says in the Bible there's no marriage in heaven. We are just...
What does that mean?
Just an interesting thing.
What do you...
I'm
do
like,
you have sex with everyone or no one?
Is there sex? Do we want pleasure even? Because we're just... No, we have a different body. Do we even want pleasure? It's just like... It's a change.
It's constant good.
Constant good. Like, The best you've ever felt, like, forever.
And so my thing with that is, at least in this world, is that would be the least motivating thing imaginable, would be that you are in a constant state of being no matter what you do. So why would you not just fuck off, do horrible acts? Because it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. I don't even feel bad for doing it. And also, why the things that are the most fulfilling in this life are the things that are the hardest and feel the worst in some moments, and then you accomplish them. So that seems super contradictory to that.
So the first thing you said, do whatever you want here or in heaven.
Why not do whatever you want in heaven if it doesn't matter?
Well, what kind of desires are we going to have without our body, in a new body? What will we want? Will we seek pleasure? Will we seek food? Will we seek beautiful sounds, beautiful smells, beautiful sights, beautiful things to touch? No, we're separate from that. We're separate from that nature. That's why I have to talk about why we need to be. Why are we base bad? Why are people basically bad at their core? Why do we need heaven? Why do we need to be saved? So I have to take it back to Adam and Eve in the garden. Okay. So God creates. I gotcha. God creates in 7 days. God creates everything.
Okay.
The planets, all that stuff, and then He creates Adam, and He says, okay, and He has the Garden of Eden, and He's like, okay, go name the animals, enjoy the garden, whatever. And then Adam is like, yo, I don't have a girl. I don't have a suitable mate for me. So God puts him to sleep. God made Adam from the dust of the ground. And that's why it's like we say, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. God made Adam from the dust of the ground. And then God made Adam fall asleep. And He took Adam's rib and made woman. So He made this woman out of the man, right? So they both wake up and Adam's like, okay, great. I have a suitable partner for me. They're living in the garden. It's amazing. Like, they're at this point, there is no, it's like heaven on earth. It's heaven on earth. It's great. But God said, you can eat from any tree in the garden except for this tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because they only have the knowledge of good. And if they eat from this tree, they'll have the knowledge of good and evil. And why is God giving them that choice? Why did He even make that tree? Fairness, because He's fair, because He's good. He has to give us a choice to not choose Him. Out of His fairness. Right? He's not making us robots. Okay? So God creates the earth, and why did God even create in the first place? He created out of his character. He is creative. He has to create. He has to create so that He can create good things. And those good things can show off what He can do, and those good things can have a choice. Like, God, He has to create. I don't know, I really identify with that because I am a creative person, and I always have to be making something, whether it's a song or, I don't know. I have to be just creating. I need to create to live. And that is how God is. He was just there and then created. And why did He give them the choice? Because He's fair. So here we have Adam and Eve in the garden, and they're like, okay, we're having a great time. Everything's great. And then the snake comes, the serpent, and that's Satan. And he tells Eve, he's like, hey, did God really say you can't eat from this tree? And she said, yeah, God said if we eat from this tree, we will die. And Satan was like, you're not really going to die. It's going to actually make you like God. You will have the knowledge of good and evil. And she's like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. And so she bites the fruit. She eats the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The forbidden fruit, right? Mm-hmm. And she takes over to Adam and she's like, yo, Adam, try this fruit. It's legit. And he's like, yo, that's from the tree. And she's like, yeah, it's really good. Try it. He tries it. He eats it. And that messed up everything. All of a sudden, they had the knowledge of good and evil, and they noticed that they were naked. They were like, yo, we're naked right now. This is weird. Now they're experiencing shame. And so they get leaves and they cover themselves up and they're hiding. And it says God was walking in the garden and He's like, Adam, where are you? And Adam comes out and he's like, what have you done? Like, you screwed up, bro. And Adam's like, the wife you gave me, she told me to eat the fruit. So he's passing the blame. And God is like, and God goes to Eve. He's like, what have you done? And she said, the serpent told me to eat the fruit. So she's passing the blame too. So already you've got guilt and shame, and you've got blaming happening, right? It's like, it's already just going downhill. And God goes to the serpent, and God's like, God is fair. He cannot let evil go unpunished because of his justice. So God is like, when you go against something that God commands, it's called sin. If you do what God told you not to do, that's called sin. And it has a big consequence associated with it. The penalty for sin is death. It's a death sentence. It's a death penalty.
To any sin?
That's how serious, you'll see. That's how serious sin is. Disobeying God, the creator of the universe, the penalty is death. And so God, in that moment, he took Adam and Eve and he gave them animal skins for them to wear. And guess what happened to those animals? They died. It was the first sacrifice for sins. God took 2 animals and killed those 2 animals and gave them their clothes to wear. A blood sacrifice, an animal sacrifice, covers a sin that you did. Okay? So they're wearing the animal skins, and God is super mad, and he curses the earth. This is when we think the law of entropy came into place. Everything's always breaking down. Okay. Everything's always leading. Our bodies are breaking down. Cars are breaking down. Nothing lasts. Everything is going down. Then now we have weeds. Now we have pesky mosquitoes. And God cursed the snake to have no legs and slither around on the ground. All that stuff happened. So he tells that. And that is also when we started to age too. Okay? It's a really interesting study. Doctors have found that our bodies are really self-sufficient. They make more cells every day. Why do they just stop when we turn 40? Our hair keeps growing and growing. It falls out and grows. You replace thousands of hairs every day with new ones. Why does that process stop? And doctors have noticed that process is supposed to keep going, but it just stops at a certain age. Why? It's part of the curse. God cursed the earth. And he said some specific things too. He said women are going to have pain in childbirth. And he said, women, your desire is going to be for your husband. And it's weird when it's said in English, but translated it means that you are going to want to always be like this man, like a man. Origin of feminism. Okay? And I'm all about men and women having equal opportunity. But at that moment, God said, you are going to be desiring the place of this man. It's part of the curse. And then God said to the man, if you're going to eat, it's going to be by the sweat of your brow. And he cursed the man with work. You're going to have to work for everything. So basically, God's really mad. In order to cover their sins, so he didn't have to kill Adam and Eve, he killed the 2 animals and put their skins on them. And that's symbolic that the death of the animal covered their sin, because sin has to be, the consequence of sin is death, whether it's you or an animal sacrifice. So, and this all makes more sense, trust me. So then he tells Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply. So they have kids. They have Cain and Abel, which is the first murderer that happens in the Bible. Cain kills Abel. They're living, either God plops down more humans on the earth, or it's Sweet Home Alabama, and everyone's growing, a big family's growing. Is God allowing the genes to stay pure because it's the first people, or did God plop down more people? I don't know. We don't know. It doesn't really matter to the main moral of the story. So earth is growing, everything's growing, and anytime anyone sins, anytime someone does something wrong, they make an animal sacrifice to God. They take their best animal and they sacrifice it. They burn it. There's a whole ritual thing.
But they don't eat it or anything.
They don't eat it because sin is so bad it requires blood. It's such a big deal.
Sacrifice.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, so all this is going down for such a long time, and the earth just becomes like a big mess. And God's like, I'm just going to wipe it out and start over. We're at the story of Noah at this point. So he tells Noah, who's a God-fearing man, and his family, I'm going to save you and your family and a bunch of animals. So he tells him to build the ark. He builds the ark, and the flood destroys the whole earth, and they start over. So that's the story of Noah's Ark. Every culture...
How could that happen?
So, yeah. So, underground oceans. Okay,
Oh,
they're there.
Here we go, dude.
They're there. Okay. The Bible says that the water came up from the springs of the earth.
Really?
Okay.
I thought it just
So-
rained a lot.
It was not rain. It was maybe it rained too. But yeah, and just flooded and then back down again. Exactly how did God do it? He can do whatever. He can do anything. We know that the earth is like, there's like fire and then ice and then rock and then water in between the ice and the rock. Like, Earth's core is really interesting. But the water came up from the ground, killed everyone, and started over. And then God put a rainbow in the sky, and he said, "This rainbow is my promise to you. I will never destroy the earth. I'll never hit the reset button again." And boom. And so Noah.
Okay, how do we get all the animals on the boat, dude?
So you can go to Ark Encounter in Kentucky, and you can see a real live replica of Noah's Ark. Chuck Missler, the guy we just watched, the full dimensions by cubit, by foot, are mentioned in the Bible. So they built the Ark in Kentucky. It's as big as it is. It has as many rooms as it had. We have the schematics. And Chuck Missler, the really smart guy we just watched, he made a video about how the buoyancy of the dimensions, the boat would actually float and it would actually work. Okay? And then you go to that museum. There's also the Creation Museum. And it talks about how all the animals could have made it on the ark. Were they babies? Were they not? Were there dinosaurs? Like, it talks about all that stuff. So I recommend going to the Creation Museum in Kentucky. It's really cool. Because you can see Noah's Ark.
How big's the ark, man?
It's huge, bro. Like, it's massive.
Like, how big are we talking?
It's giant. Like
a football field long, or?
It's really big and has multiple stories. And you can
but
go
dude,
see
how
it.
do we fit? There's so many animals, dude.
Again, like what, there's also, okay.
How do you have a lion
God only needs,
next to an antelope?
okay, God only needs one cat, maybe, for example, one of the cat species. And then does that cat species go and all the cats came from that one cat?
Okay.
Are these baby animals, right? They're not eating each other. They're low maintenance. There's a lot of ways
Who's feeding them?
it could have happened. Who's feeding? It talks about where he stored the animals and what he packed. He packed the food. They were only on the ark for 40 days.
That's a lot of food.
I know it's a lot of days.
Elephants eat a lot, bro.
Are they babies though? Or are there no elephants? Is there a?
Still like as big as us, dude?
Yeah, well, it's a really big ark. Like, they're like, this stuff, it is interesting to talk about. It's not important to the main story, but it is interesting to talk about, and there's a whole museum about it. I highly recommend you go.
It's
cool.
hard when there's like things like that in the Bible that are like, could that be ultimate truth? That just seems so outlandish in our sense of the world.
Let's break it down. Could it float? Possibly. Yes.
Titanic existed, sure, yeah.
No,
big.
Chuck Missler is in the Navy, and he literally shows by these dimensions, if you put a boat with these dimensions in the water, the center of gravity would keep it afloat no matter what. Like, he factually proves that the ark could float. And then you go to the Creation Museum, and they talk about how the animals could fit and all that stuff. So, and the ark actually still may yet to be discovered. Okay, the Bible says where it rested. It rested on top of a mountain, and there are people looking for the ark.
Go find that thing, dude.
I know.
That sounds like a really good book.
Yeah, I know.
We should write a book about finding the ark.
The trouble is that it's covered. The mountain that it's covered on is covered in snow, and it's not really something we can just go.
Mount Everest is the boat.
Go get it. Go get it, man.
That'd
Make
be
it your
almost
life.
insane.
Would you believe all this if you could find?
Oh, if I
Ark?
found a huge boat inside of Mount Everest, yeah, I'd believe.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Go find it then.
Oh,
Come on.
man.
Isn't it worth it? So okay, so you got Noah's Ark. Blah blah. A lot of time goes by, and we start hearing about this person called the Messiah, the 300 prophecies, Jesus, the Lamb of God. You've heard these names. I know, right? The Messiah, our Savior. He's going to save us. You start hearing these prophecies that God is going to come down to earth as a man, as one of us, and live how we live, yet not sin, not one time. And he's going to save us all. That's what it says in the Old Testament. So then, fast forward all the way till Christmas Day, which was really sometime in April. Jesus was born sometime in April, not December, but
Wait,
what matters is that we celebrate it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's like, oops. We celebrate
Oops.
his birthday a few months later. So check this out. Jesus is born, and he does not sin his whole time he's here on earth. And he claims to be God coming to earth as a man, hanging out with the people he created. And all of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John, those are called the Gospels, the 4 Gospels. They're really just 4 accounts of the same story.
Oh.
It's Matthew telling a story of Jesus, Mark, Luke, and John. And Luke...
Oh, that's the eyewitnesses with other witnesses.
Correcto. And Luke is a doctor. So you get a really detailed account from this doctor, this physician. And then Mark, I don't know their other positions, but you get a unique account from each one of them, telling the story of Jesus, the people he healed, what he did. And Jesus went and he died on the cross. And he said before he died, "It is finished." Okay? And he used the Greek word telestai. And the Greek word, in English, it is finished. But for Greeks, they would put that at the end of a contract when you fulfill the contract. Like, paid in full. Like, we're straight. It's finished. Telestai. Jesus said, what's John 3:16? For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. This is where it gets crazy. This is like the meaning of everything right here. Jesus came down and he was the one sacrifice for all of our sin. So we don't have to sacrifice animals anymore for our sin. Jesus was the one sacrifice for all our sin. Who is Jesus? Jesus is God, and he's eternal. So if Jesus gives himself for our sin, how many sins does that cover? Eternal sins.
Nice.
We are good. We are covered. We are straight. And at that point, when Jesus died, there was like a big earthquake, and there's like a curtain in the temple where they sacrificed the animals, and the curtain ripped, signifying like, you don't need to use this anymore. So at that point, we stopped sacrificing animals. But yeah, so we stopped sacrificing animals, and that is the story of how Jesus saved you. That is why we are born naturally bad, with a tendency to sin, because we have the knowledge of good and evil. We want to please ourselves, and we're selfish. Now, here's the really cool part, is that Jesus never sinned. And you have to, when you sacrifice an animal for like your sin, it has to be the best of your animals. And it can have no broken bones. And specifically, they normally, when you're hanging up on the cross, they break your legs so that you can't push yourself up to breathe. And then you hang back down again, so they would break your legs. But they didn't break Jesus's legs. Fulfilling the prophecy that if you're giving an animal sacrifice, it has to have no broken bones. And it has to be the best of you. Jesus was the best of us humans. And he had no broken bones. He is the Lamb of God. He is the Lamb that was sacrificed for our sin. How many of them? All of them. All the sins in all time forever. So we had a debt that we couldn't pay. We were headed for hell. And then Jesus comes down and he's like, you're my creation. I love you. I'm going to provide a way out for the mistake that Adam and Eve made in the garden. And he sends Jesus to die on the cross. Boom. Now all of our sins are covered. But how do you get to heaven? Believing in what Jesus did. So literally it's as simple as like you don't even have to like close your eyes or anything, but you can just go somewhere like tonight before bed, right before you fall asleep. Just talk to God and be like, God, Jesus, he hears you. He's everywhere. He knows everything. And just say, Jesus, I believe that you really are God and that you came to earth and that you died for my sins. And thank you for saving me. And if you're real, just show yourself to me. Take me on a journey and prove that you're real, because I want to know. If you say that prayer before bed tonight, I would bet any money your life would change. I bet any money. Things would start happening. You would start meeting people. because God cares about you, and he's like waiting for you to make a move. The ball is in our court always. But that one guy who was hanging on the cross, he looked over at Jesus and said, "What? I believe that was all that was required. That was all. It didn't matter what he did in the past." So, yeah, that is why, we come out the womb and we have this sinful nature. That's why our bodies want to be satisfied to no end. But, like, for example, like, some people say, like, oh, yeah, like, I'm a good person. Like, or I think I'm pretty good. Like, here's a practical example. You don't need to teach a kid not to lie. Sorry, you don't need to teach a kid to lie. You have to tell them not to lie. They come out like, they be lying. You know what I mean? Like,
they be lying.
Babies be lying, like, from the start. Like, and so, here's the thing, like, here's a test. Do you think you're a good person? Depends on the worldview, right?
It depends on the...
By whose account. But yeah, like, just right now, forget about, like, whatever, everything based on your current beliefs. Before we talked, if someone would have asked you, are you a good person?
I'd probably think so.
Okay. Can we, I'm going to put that to the test. Is that okay?
Oh, man. Here we go.
Okay, so check this out. Let's go by the 10 Commandments. Just the 10 Commandments.
Okay.
All right. The thou shalt not lie. Right? Have you lied before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thou shalt not. What's the other one? I know you haven't murdered anybody. Thou shalt not steal. Have you ever stolen anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Already you're a thieving liar, right?
Yeah.
Thou shalt not have any other gods before me. Thou shalt not commit adultery. And here's the thing, like, Jesus, when he was walking around on earth, he says that even having the intention of murder is the same as murdering someone in my eyes. Even looking at a woman with lust is the same thing as committing adultery in my eyes. Just the intention of sin is committing the sin in God's eyes. So, no, in God's eyes, we're not good. And the Bible says if you've broken one of the 10 Commandments, you're just as guilty as breaking them all. If you break the law, you broke the law. Right? And then the Bible says the wages of sin is death. So we are not good people. We do deserve death. That is why we need what Jesus did. Okay? Now, like, it's crazy because you can say, oh, I don't believe this, but at the end of the day, if you're wrong, you're going to look like a criminal going into a courtroom just saying, like, I don't believe in this system. Don't believe it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just...
It's a defense.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't believe in this whole justice system. I think I'm a good person. You don't have a choice at that point. That could be...
You never have a choice, really. Just kind of brought into this thing.
Yeah, so we are brought into this with free will. But yeah, we're brought into it because our parents brought us in.
Or like, just like society. You can't be like, oh, I don't feel like society anymore.
Oh, yeah, that is...
Hard to just...
That's part of the reason I'm moving to Hawaii, because...
Oh, yeah?
Just going out to, like, the island life, like, so carefree over there. It's not... Like, here it's like American dream. Get married, have kids, work a 9 to 5. In Hawaii, it's like, dude, like, let's just surf. Like, if you went there, you'd just be running around the island.
Yeah. What island are you going to?
Oahu.
Oahu.
Yep.
Sounds nice.
Yeah.
So why...
So that is, like, the reality of things.
So why are you going to Hawaii for specifically this book? And then also, how are you trying to decide, like, how are you coming to ultimate truth by going on this huge journey? Because I know you're going elsewhere after Hawaii.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see the 4 corners of the earth. I do. And it's, the question I'm trying to answer is God here? And could he work here? I want to meet Christians in these places. I want to meet the atheists in these places. I want to meet the religions that are specific to these places. And answer the question like, okay, you know, I see what the Bible is saying, but could it really be true? Like, I want the hard evidence. I'm not the type to just believe something just to believe it. Everything that I mentioned, as fanciful as it may sound, it's not really fanciful. It just may be far from what you're currently believing. It's all coming from this book, and we talked about how special this book is already. You know, like, even though the claims that it makes are kind of like, whoa, they're out there. We talked about the origins of the book and the prophecies, and like, we know that this book is basically, I'm proving that the book is legitimate, and now let's try to understand the content of it. You know what I'm saying? So like, I am no like crazy authority on this. Like, I am also an imperfect person trying to find truth. And this is what I've found so far. And no other worldview, religious or not, has given not only this many answers to the real questions, but also like has been such a crazy ride. Like, this has been like, dude, we talked about so much today. Like, and this is the reality. Could this really match up with the world that's outside this house right now? Like, does it match? The puzzle analogy. So I'm borrowing this from Dr. Del Tackett. It's one of my favorite speakers. And basically what he says is that a worldview is like a jigsaw puzzle. And each individual piece is a truth claim. And you have a jigsaw puzzle, and I have a jigsaw puzzle. And my jigsaw puzzle is like, I'm building it, and it's a picture, and you want your jigsaw puzzle picture to exactly match reality. Okay, that's my goal.
Okay.
I believe I can build a jigsaw puzzle, a worldview, and you want it to exactly match reality. And he's saying, you know, some people have a puzzle, but it has pieces from many puzzles, and it doesn't quite match reality. I'm trying to find the worldview that corresponds with reality, with the world we're living in right now. For example, like we talked about the zodiac signs,
Okay.
right, the other day.
Yeah.
So there's constellations in the sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. There's 12 of them. Yes. They have the same names in every culture around the world. Yes. So in that way, we share the same worldview. But the constellations were first noticed and named in Hebrew. And starting with Virgo, the Virgin, all the way to Leo, when God returns as a lion, Lion of Judah, the zodiac signs tell the story of Jesus' life, one sign at a time. Versus how people that are into like Wicca and like the Mother Earth, like all these like nature beliefs, non-God, non-Christian beliefs, say these stars actually teach us about our personality and they have wisdom. Mm-hmm. So my worldview has stars in it, but it claims to tell the story of Jesus. Your worldview has stars in it, but it claims something totally different. So I'm always kind of scrutinizing and looking at the puzzle that I'm building and making sure I'm using pieces from the Bible, and I'm seeing if that really works. Like, yeah, it's the jigsaw puzzle analogy. I don't know. It's interesting stuff. Dude, this is not the only supernatural thing on this earth. Like, we've got like UFOs, right? There's like these things that are like going at crazy speeds and like doing crazy turns that none of our aircraft can do. There's some supernatural things happening here on Earth. How are the pyramids built? Right? Pyramids are really interesting. Their exorcisms happen. Tarot card readings happen. Witch gatherings happen. Voodoo happens. There are real supernatural forces, things that can't be explained here on Earth. Even in the Bible, there's this guy named Samuel, and there's a guy named Saul, and he's not getting an answer from God. So he gets a medium to call up Samuel, a dead Christian guy, and he's like, hey, what should I do? Because you're a Christian. And God gets super upset at him because he didn't go straight to the source. But wait a second, what just happened? He just called a witch and she raised someone from the dead and had a conversation with a dude, and that's in the Bible? Like, what? It's called, it's the story of the Witch of Endor. It's in 2 Samuel. Like, there are powers out there. It may be that these other religions also have supernatural elements to them. Okay? It may be that there's healings that happen. It may be that there's crazy, unexplainable things that happen. But it still begs the question, which one is truth? Just because something is supernatural doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Still, too. So that's something to keep an eye out for. As we have the internet and things become more and more publicized, a really good question to ask is like, okay, yeah, it's flashy, it's supernatural, but does that mean I should like believe in it? So that's something I'm always thinking about too. But yeah.
So what is the journey that you're going on specifically? Like, where are you going? What are you doing? What are you seeing? What are your destinations?
I want to see. I've already been to Hawaii, but I want to see all the islands. My goal is to go to churches there, meet the Christians there, do the hikes, talk to God on giant mountaintops, get closer with God the whole time. Quick side tangent. The relationship that we are to have with God is that of a romantic relationship. He loves us like that. And that's the type of relationship he wants. It's not like a master to a servant. It's not like a big stone statue and I'm just down here like cowering. The Bible says that we are his bride. Okay? Like, he loves us like that. And so when I talk to God, I tell him everything. Like, I spilled coffee on my shirt, talk to God about it. I'm having a stressful day at work, I talk to God about it. I include him in everything, just as I would text a girlfriend. That is the relationship we're to have with him. And you cannot have that relationship you cannot have a relationship with a God like that in any other religion. Every other God is just, they're doing their own thing, or they're inaccessible, or maybe they are a block of wood or a statue. You know what I mean? So this God is accessible and you can have a personal relationship with him. So all that being said, as I travel and meet other Christians, I want to also get closer with God as I see more of his creation. Because Romans 1 said, what can be known about me is made clear. Like, you see me in my creation. So when I stand on a mountain and I look out, or even yesterday, the storm with the big gusts of wind, like, I see God in that. I'm like, wow, this is like, God, you are so awesome. You made this. This is like I see you. I see your power. I see your, like, the beauty of what you create. Like, we're seeing God in that. It says his invisible attributes are made clear when we look at his creation. So, yeah, I'm traveling to see creation, traveling to see people. There's a backpack trip in Europe that I want to do. So basically just take a train all the way up from Italy to France and just live out of a backpack the whole time. That I want to do. In Vietnam, there's this town where you can buy a motorcycle and you take it all the way down the coast of Vietnam and you sell it there. They sell the bike and then you leave. So, like, they know tourists are going to come buy a bike, take it down and go. Like, I want to do that. Like, I want to go to Jerusalem. I want to go to Israel. I want to see Bethlehem. I want to see the streets that Jesus walked on. Because that's all there. Like, you can see the archaeological finds and stuff. I want to do that. Banff, Canada is really cool. The water's really pretty. Like, I don't know, like, you know, what do you do? Like, the Bible gives us a command. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. I will do that. And then it also says, go and make disciples of all nations. It says, go make more Christians. Okay, I'm going to go do that. But then what do you do with the rest of your free time? You know, you can enjoy what God made. I'm here for a little bit more time and just going out to enjoy it. I want to show you something. So I actually track my days. So far I'm 25. I've been alive for 9,347 days. And if I live to be 100 and die at age 100, I will be alive for 27,000 more days. It's not that long, right? These values are not that big. And get this, it's not really 27,000 more days because I'm a male American. I'm only expected to live to 70. So we'll cut that down. And then how much of that time is spent sleeping, literally unconscious? little less than half, okay. And did you know that we spend 10% of our lives with our eyes closed due to blinking? 10% is just like this. We're really not here for that long, bro. Not that long at all. The Bible says that our lives are like a vapor in the wind. Like you spray a spray bottle on mist, that's our life. Like, it's there and it's gone. I just want to live it to the best of my ability and live intentionally. I also have a clock in my room. It's an 11-digit clock. It's a shot clock like you would see at a basketball game. And it has 75 years, however many months, weeks, days, minutes, seconds. And I go to bed at night, I look at that clock, and that's my life ticking down. And like, some people would say like, okay, that's morbid. But I would argue that it's not. If you're morbid, you have an extra focus on death. This is not an extra focus on death. This is just the reality. I'm going to die in 75 years if I live to 100. So by looking at that clock, I'm sitting in my bed and I'm like, do I really want to sit on TikTok for an hour of that time? Do I really want to hang out with this person I don't want to hang with? Do I want to stay at this job? Do I want to keep eating the way I'm eating? Do I want to sleep an extra 10 minutes? Like, that's your life. We're not here for that long. So I live with great intention. And having that knowledge, that awareness of how much longer I'm going to be here, if nothing happens, if I don't die earlier, that helps me to live very intentionally. And that is kind of why, like, I'm looking for truth with all my might. And that's why I want to go out and travel and experience life at any cost. Why leave Apple after 6 years? I'll have to travel. Why search for truth? Because I'm only here for a little bit, and if, in a lot of these cases, if I'm wrong, my soul is not going to a very good place. So we need to figure it out. But what is true? What can I actually know that I know? Through only one source, God. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth. All right, so that's why I'm stuck on Christianity, because it seems to answer that. I believe it does answer it. And so I'm like, yeah, while I'm here, I need to figure this out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kind of at a resting point. I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to mention?
Oh man, it's
Spilled it out. Do you feel better?
It's just like
Excited?
It's just what I have learned so far in this journey.
When do you leave?
July 16th.
Specific day.
Yeah, I bought the ticket, that's why. So yeah.
716.
Yeah, true.
Wow. Well, if you don't have anything else, I'm through.
Dude.
That was great.
Wow, yes.
Yeah,
Success.
Thank you for coming on. I've learned a lot. Honestly, you're probably one of the first people that's like made me like really think about Christianity. So
You said something beautiful the other day. We were on the phone, and you said the closest you can get to truth is seeking truth. Or can you just say it again? What were you saying? You're like the most beautiful thing that you can do is seek truth, or something like that.
The closest thing to truth itself is the act of seeking truth, and that is the most beautiful thing.
Yes, I'm glad we recorded that. That's like so good. That's where I am, and that's where I want you to be. That's where I want everyone to be. Everyone. Because if you're really actively seeking truth, by the nature of truth, you will find it. You will find that everything else is wrong and this is true. And Jesus says, I am the truth. And so if you are seeking him, he's going to do that.
And even if everything you said is blasphemy, in some crazy circumstance, I don't think you're going to regret trying to figure that out, ever.
No, the search for truth is a noble, admirable thing.
Yeah.
And it is a life well lived. For me, I don't have an option. It's this or depression, or it's going to be substance abuse. It's going to be tons of women. This is my purpose, to find truth, And like, closing thought about the book, sometimes I think to myself, why hasn't Christianity been proved? If it's this easy to prove, like it's been all this time, why doesn't this book exist already? DNA. Okay? Your DNA is specific to you. There's never been a you that's existed, and there will never be a you that exists in the future. The way you process information is unique to you, and it's unique to the 70 years you're here on this planet. So if you put out a book, like I'm listening to Chuck Missler, I'm listening to Dr. Vodi Balcom, I'm listening to Dr. Del Tackett, I'm listening to these people, and it's going through a unique filter, which is my brain. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm putting out a book that no one else could put out in any other time in history. There's never been a Jesse. There never will be a Jesse. There never will be a Jesse who took in the information I took in. That's why this book doesn't exist yet, and that's why it has to exist.
That's what I would think about. Like, that's why the power of authenticity is that there is nothing truer than acting like your actual self, because that is the only actual thing that is unique to you, is yourself. If you're acting like anything other than that, then it's just something that's already existed.
Yes.
That's power. People love authenticity.
It's not just unique in your lifetime either. It's unique to all of time. You have never existed. There will never be another you again. DNA is different for everyone. Okay, like it is very important that you create and that you reach your max potential because you have something unique to offer society in this world. I would say God created you for a special purpose. But if you don't want to believe in God, you have something that only you can offer this world. So get out and create. Get out and find yourself and do it. No one else can, right?
Let's do it, baby.
Let's go. Like, yes. So.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Dude, thanks for having me. It's been awesome.